You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And this morning, to help us with the discussion, joining us via Zoom is Professor Audrey Gajepo, Dean, School of Information and Communication Studies, University of Ghana. Here in the studio, Kenneth Ashibe is convener, Media Coalition Against Galamsey, and has also been doing work with the Media Coalition seeking to assist journalists that get assaulted. Thank you for making the time to join us, sir.
Thank you very much.
Right.
It's my pleasure.
And for all of you, surprise, who have been asking, where is he? Abdul Malik Kwekubako, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Thank you so much. So excited to see you back.
Same here.
Right.
Yeah.
And our deepest condolences to you and your family for the double loss.
Thank you, and for your prayers, support, and commitment to the event.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So that will be for the first segment. And for the second segment, these two gentlemen will remain with us. And we shall have Dr. Gladys Nyakwansa, co-principal investigator, University of York, UG Galamsey Research Team. And then Samuel Abujinapo, the Minister, Lands and Natural Resources, and MP for Damongo, will join us for the second segment. We're going to begin a first segment where we play you some sounds so that you can follow what is going on. But I want you to look at this briefly. There's a picture coming in your shorts, and I want you to look at it briefly to give you a certain sense of what may have prompted all of this. So that's a picture, and you see Chevy vehicles, brand new, bought by the state, and that were kept at the National Security Ministry area, and were kept there for a long time. So the journalist Caleb took these pictures earlier on in 2019, and so when the Fix Ghana, Fix the Country campaign came on, he posted it. When he posted it, Maslock leaders got in touch with him to tell him that the cars have long been distributed, so they are no more there. As you may have heard, Dr. Stephen Amwa, former head of Maslock, he has explained that about 90 of the cars are no more at that place and in this shape. So Caleb decided to confirm for himself by going back to this place to check if the cars are still there. Of course, as we know by Stephen Amwa's account, there should be 10% of the cars still sitting there. So he went there and started taking pictures of these videos of these cars. And that is what has brought him the trouble that he is in now. This is very similar to a situation that we found ourselves in, where the state, once again using our money, bought some galloper vehicles, and they sat on one compound for 17 years. Take a look at that. 17 years. Manasseh Azore followed this story. Some of you have watched it a couple of times. But look at this video and look at those vehicles. Okay, these are pictures for now. Those were the galloper vehicles that the state bought. And we kept them at this location. And you can see how they looked before they were eventually auctioned off. We bought them for a total of $2.6 million. And then eventually we sold them off because they were rotten for some 300 and something thousand Ghana cedis. And all the time when they were sitting there were state institutions, departments, agencies that needed vehicles. The NCC has needed vehicles and cried for them for a long time. There are district assemblies that need just one vehicle to help them do something. These vehicles were sitting there, bought with our money. So if somebody had gone here and taken pictures of them without permission, what would they suffer? Now let's listen to Caleb.
The national security. The first time I went there, I didn't know the national security ministry was there. It was just the big one close to the conference center that I knew of. And because I had been there before, I could figure. In my
you knew
mind,
the area.
In my mind, I knew the area. But when I got there, it was a very open space. And I said hello to the security. He was like, "What are you looking for?" I said, "Oh, I have an appointment." Much later, when the guy was roped in, he said, "I told him I was looking for an abana." I think that was to get him out of trouble, and I didn't push back. Okay, so I got in there because I knew where the cars were. I went straight. And
so just describe the place.
Yeah.
You entered through the stadium side.
Yeah.
There are two big buildings in front of you.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of
huge
cars.
space. Yeah.
But those are normal cars of other people.
Normal cars.
So these cars you're talking about, where are they?
So if you're getting closer to they call it ESS or EES, which is close to the conference center, the cars are just close to the entry to that huge building. It looks like very palatial. So that's where the cars were. So I took some photos and I was on my way.
These are the white cars.
These are the white cars.
The Chevy cars you took pictures of previously.
The Chevy cars I took pictures
to confirm whether the claim that they had been disbursed was true or not. So you needed evidence of the car still being there.
Precisely. I just asked,
how long did you spend taking those photos?
It was like not too long because I needed to be swift and get out. And let me tell you what I saw. When I saw the cars, I realized that it was a fleet, but this time it was not as many as I first saw. They were fewer.
So suggesting that maybe some of the cars had been moved.
But still, you had weeds on it.
Some of them.
Just the same style as I saw it. Just that the earlier one, it was greener. So, okay. And I saw that the seats in the car had rubber on it. And
so it means that they are new and used cars.
And used cars. And you could tell the color of the car. A cracky.
That's correct. So you walked to where the cars were parked.
Yes.
And then you took photos.
Yeah, so you could be taking while you're walking. Okay. So it's not like you stand there for everybody to see you are filming.
So you just took that?
You just took those. And then I was on my way out. Now here
the same entrance you came from the stadium side?
The same entrance.
So you didn't go, did you walk to the ministry or the building?
Not at all.
Did you cross the car park?
I had no business.
So you went towards the shed side?
I went towards the shed side, and that's where you see the black cars, some V8s and all. So I saw some V8s there, and they were all dusty, and I was like, hey.
So on your way out after taking the white Chevy
pictures? On my way
pictures?
out after taking the white Chevy, and I saw black V8s covered in dirt, and the tires were looking at V8 and Futuro, V8 and Futuro. So I did a quick video, and I was just on my way out, because I was just really close to the gates out of the place. And then
so sorry, on your way out of the place, you did a quick video.
Yes.
Of the other cars,
the V8s,
not the white cars.
Not the white cars. But my real.
So were you walking whilst you were doing the video, or you were just standing?
Yeah, I was moving.
You were moving.
I was moving.
But were you? I just want to know how you were holding the camera, just to swear that was it a conspicuous thing? Were you saying, "Here are the cars"?
No.
So you were holding the phone.
So you can hold it close to your
chest.
Show
me how you did it.
So okay. So you can hold the phone close to your chest while you're going.
So you were narrating.
Precisely.
So you didn't film your face. You were filming the cars on your way out.
Precisely.
These are the cars parked
under the shed.
Under the shed.
Right by the wall.
Okay.
So I was just about making my way out of the gate, and then there was this man in a car in there who saw me and said, "Hey, where are you going?" And then I said, I became jittery. I said, I came to see someone, but the person's not there. He said, who was that? Basically, he had seen me. So he was like, why were you taking the videos? And then I said, I'm sorry. I tried to explain to him why I came. He wouldn't listen. He raised the alarm and said, arrest him. So he effected that call. And by
Do you
this
know
time,
around what time is this? Is it 2:33?
So this should be. In fact, I lost
sense of time.
True.
But this was on your way after you had done your.
Precisely.
Do you know how long you spent in there before you were coming out?
Oh, I didn't do more than 20 minutes. It was really, because I've done something.
So it was a short time?
It was a really, really short time.
So he raises an alarm, and then what happens?
And then they come at me, and immediately I panicked. So I decided to share some of the photos I had taken, particularly of the white cars, which was my focus, with
Zoe,
my very good friend.
So whilst they were coming for you, you did that?
Yes.
Okay.
Just so that, and in my thinking, they were going to forcibly take the phone and delete it and caution me and say, walk out of here or something like that. So I sent the videos to Zoe. But it turned out they were more, they were bent on showing me, they were bent on dealing with me, because then they took me to a small post when you enter on the left. There's a mango tree there. There are a number of police officers there. So by this time, a plainclothes gentleman had come and was like, yeah, these are the people who are causing blah 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 blah.
No, don't say blah blah blah.
Yeah, they said they are causing problem for us already. There is tension in the system, and they are trying to kind of, so
just take your time. So the gentleman who raised the alarm had seen you recording some video near the cars that you were on the way out.
Yeah.
He raises an alarm, and what did they accuse you of when they initially raised the alarm?
First they were like, how did I get in there? Forced entry or something like that. So then they take me to the police post where we met DSP Azugu. By this time, the gentleman in plain clothes had gone ahead of us to tell everybody that I had come there, I had breached the protocols, and I was trying to cause them some chaos and trouble. So all the police officers there became very agitated and aggressive towards me.
So the way he reported what you were doing got them angry?
Yes, infuriated. And so they took me to a smaller office. I showed them my ID card to tell them that, look, I'm from City. I agree, I shouldn't have taken them. Let's delete it and please let me go. But they wouldn't. They took me to see Azugu. I showed him my ID card. He said, where are you from? I said, City. Who do you know? I said, Richard Mensah. Then he called Richard. I didn't even give Richard's number. He called OJ. And so by the time he spoke to OJ, in my mind, then it was going to be sorted. By this time, they had taken my phone and they were looking through my chats. And they found out that I had sent photos to Zoe. That is when the gentleman started chatting Zoe as though I was the one talking to him. So around this time, they said, take a statement. They pushed me, I sat on a chair, they slapped me from the back, and they were...
Which of the people are you talking about?
The police officers. These are men in uniform. Some were bearded, they had guns.
Did you see any names?
Masks. Unfortunately, no, but I heard names like Osei and Owusu. Those are the names that I heard. So then...
And this is still in the small office?
This is still in the small office, very close
Azugu's office, near the mango
office.
tree?
Yes. So I saw a very elderly policeman. He looks like the traditional policeman you see, because these were younger, with beard, more brazen. I was trying to appeal to them that I've worked with police before. I've heard, just please, sort the people out of them. By this time they had beaten him like, oh, but they was just still slapping me from the back. You'll be talking to another one, and someone will just come and slap you from the back, and you feel dizzy at once. And it's like... It was so fast.
In that same space?
That same space.
At this point, had they handcuffed you?
At this point, they had handcuffed me, and every now and again, one will come and press it harder so that I feel the head. I was so thirsty. One guy came in, he was like, oh, Caleb, then he got me water. Even drinking the water was difficult.
Because of the way the handcuff was. Did you speak to Azugu?
Yeah, after he spoke to OJ, he didn't deal with me much. He was very angry because the guy had really, really worked him up, and he was so sure that I was just there to cause mayhem for them.
Do you know what the gentleman told them? Did you tell them you were reporting, or you were broadcasting, or just filming? He
told them that I had come there to film the national security installation and some other things, which in all sincerity, I didn't do.
It was the cars that you had come to take.
So you know, if you are taking the pictures secretly, you are not watching. It's later when you finish that you pay attention to it. So if mistakenly I'm taking any of the national security buildings, that was not even my truth. And I tried to explain to them, but still they wouldn't listen. Then along the line, they call somebody captain or something. He came in some green jacket, pink shirt. He looked very civil and nice. So I tried to talk to him that, boss, please help me. By this time, they had taken me out. We were under a mango tree. They had taken me out. We were under a mango tree. When I saw it, I tried to, immediately he said I should kneel down. And then he kicked me. So I'm told.
This person is not in military uniform.
He's not in police uniform. He looks very dapper.
He's wearing green.
Yes.
Do you know his name?
Pink shirt. What could his name be? Yes, Ajiman.
They called him Ajiman.
They called him Ajiman. And
so when he came, you were trying to appeal to him.
I was trying to appeal to him. I said, they have beaten me enough. Like, I beg you, like, just let me go. At least they have deleted the thing. Because he asked me to kneel down, and I'm told he's there. He kicked me. You can imagine where his feet landed.
He kicked you in the groin.
Yes.
At this point, did you fall? Or you already knelt?
I was already kneeling, so I was dusty and all. So at the time he gave them instruction, when we're going back to where Azubu was, the boy said, Captain Kasasi Amburu, and no.
That's what they told you?
That's what he told me.
So then he leaves you there. What did he tell you after he slapped you?
He was very angry. So he was like, you're trying to cause, I can't quote him verbatim because too much was running through my mind. But by this time, they were upbeat on coming to the office to fetch Zoe.
You knew that they were going to do that?
Yeah, they were saying that. And so I think in their chats with Zoe, they had asked her where she was, and she said Studio Annex. And they asked me, where is Studio Annex? And I said, it's in our office. So,
which means that Zoe was chatting thinking she was talking to you?
Exactly.
Because she didn't know that you had been
precisely
arrested. Amazing. This is the point of view. Caleb Kuda is telling his story. Zoe will join us as well. This is the story that happened at City FM on Tuesday, the 11th of May. Caleb Kuda has just narrated the first part of the story, and that will not be all. There was a lot more to come. When we come back, we'll show you how the team came with Caleb to City to arrest Zoe and what happened in the aftermath. Stay with us.
Just like their hands are so big and thick. One hit is like Medros. So by this time, they wanted to come and pick Zoe. And so they said, like, where is Studio Annex? And I tell them it's in the office. And I was in cuffs all the time.
So they are chatting with Zoe, who thinks she's chatting with you.
Yes.
And they are coming here to pick her up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then they come with like 3 pickups, and I was in one. There were 2 guys by me, one here, one here. This guy sounds a bit reasonable. I didn't know best. I was trying to explain to him. I said, "No, we'll be there for more person." And that's how we're trying to have a rapport, thinking that things will ease up. And the guy here, oh my God. Then so we got here.
You were flanked by the 2 of them.
The 2 of them.
When you tried to explain what you were doing, are you saying you didn't understand or he wouldn't listen? What were they saying to you in the car when you were coming?
Yes, so then the gentleman, he's fairer. He's fair. He was a bit more calmer and all, but he was just trying to say that the media is causing problem for the system and all that kind of thing. And the guy in plain clothes who was chatting Zoe was in the front seat, and then he kept engaging me here and there. So while we were coming, they came with one of the cars ahead with the strobe lights. And
so whilst you are saying this, we'll now show you those images. So Caleb is one of the pickups that are parked on the screen you're seeing. So then Zoe is standing outside on the phone. Who are you talking to? Were you on the phone?
Yeah, I was talking to someone else.
You were talking to somebody else. Yeah. So you had left where we were and you were talking on the phone.
Yes.
So when they came, they knew it was Zoe, or you told them this was Zoe?
They asked me if that's her. In fact, they said, oh, yeah, some of them know us. So
they saw you on TV.
So the moment they saw her, they knew that was her. And for me, because she was on her phone and I suspected they were engaging her, I felt she was actually out because of them. And when we got here, I was in the cuff, and everybody rushed in. And I was like, let me stay in the cuff. She said, no,
they wanted to embarrass you.
They just brought me down for everybody to see that I was in cuffs. And the neighborhood, people just came around.
Yeah, but people see you in cuffs doesn't necessarily mean you've done anything wrong. So I'm like, if I had caused one of the serious judgment deaths in this country, they beat me that way, I felt that handcuff, I would have understood. But I have friends from Lincoln who are still unemployed, and there are cars here, and I hear that these cars are still there. I'm like, okay, let's go and see if it's still there or not. So that was your crime. Let's continue the story. So you are standing outside. Obviously, you've been pointed out. What happened?
Okay, so before that, I received videos from Caleb at 2:34 p.m. and I saw it around 2:52. And because I already knew about his earlier post and what it brought about, when I saw it, I was like, oh wow, it's still there. And he says, yes, where are you now? At this point, I thought I was chatting him. And I told him where I was. I said, Studio Annex. Then the next thing that came is, I'm hungry. Let's find some food to eat. Let's go and find something to eat. And then...
presumably to lure you out of the office.
That was the intention. So if I had said, okay, where? Once the person told me where I was supposed to come, they would have picked me up from there.
But this, I didn't know who you were chatting to.
I didn't know.
You thought it was Caleb.
So I received a call from Richard Mensah, OJ, and he says, Zoe, where are you? I said, I'm here. He came. He said, did Caleb send you anything? I said, yes. He says he's been arrested. I said, oh, wow. And that is how come I was able to make sense of the message I received. Because Caleb and I are very good friends, even on social media. I mean, but not to the extent of, let's go and find something to eat. You get it? So that raised eyebrows. So I exclaimed, hey, where are you there? And he says, on my way to the office. And I said, okay, get here and let's talk. And the person says, okay. At this point, they realized that I didn't answer the way they wanted. So they called me using Caleb's phone. So the person calls and says, hey, I'm so-and-so, Director of Operations, National Security, we need you to come here now. And I said, come here for what? What is my crime? What have I done? And he says, and I said, I can't come there because I have superiors, I have bosses. You have to let them know because once, and he said, oh, your colleague Caleb is here and we have checked on his phone and we have realized that he sent you some video. So we need you here for question. And I said, okay, that's fine. Let me get to my bosses and then I'll revert. The person was calm on the phone. He says, okay. So I hung up, called Richard Mensah. Why? He said, the people have called me. They use Caleb's phone. He says, oh, but these people, I told them DSP Azubu is dealing with me. So they should, deal with me on that level. So he says, call them back and tell them that I'll deal with DSP Azubu. So I called back. There was no response. I went to the cafeteria to eat. And that is when I met you and Samens there. So I got a call and then I walked out to the car park to receive the call. So I stopped eating. So it was at that point that I saw 3 police vehicles, top speed, coming. They just parked. There she is. Oh, no. And he just walked to me.
Who is this he? Is there a policeman?
No, he was plainclothes.
Plainclothes. In mask as well?
Yes, and he was the leader of the group. And he says, okay, I was the one chatting with you. I was like, okay, give me your phone. So he seized my phone immediately.
He snatched your phone?
Yes.
Whilst you were standing outside?
Outside. So I told the person, I'll call you back. I just hung up and he took my phone from me. Then I heard someone say, catch her, arrest her. And I was like, for what? Then I heard
This is the phone you're looking for. You have the phone. Okay.
Then someone cocked the gun. I was scared at that point.
He cocked the gun?
Yes. I got scared at that point. And because I knew you and Samens were at the cafeteria, I immediately ran to the place. So they were chasing me there. So it actually chased me there. Someone had to use the back because he thought maybe I was going so that they'll catch me. So that is when I got there and Samens says I should sit down. And so he picked it up from there. And so that is what happened.
Wow. This is still the point of view. We're trying to give you the story from our side, what happened. Caleb could...
Right, so that's a bit of the long narration of the story as told by Caleb and Zoe Abubedu, all of City. And I'm going to start the conversation, but I need to play one other sound to you, video to you, because we believe that whilst it is Caleb who has undergone this for now, we need to broaden this discussion and to look at when this will stop. And then what I'm going to play to you is to tell you a story that everything Caleb said I believe him. And I have a reason for believing him. I have dealt with a number of people who have been at national security, and the story is the same method, consistent. Listen to this one.
Then press ups.
So there was nothing. So what happened is what you've described.
Yes, they didn't electrocute me. They didn't use the taser on my penis, to be frank.
They didn't do that.
I don't want to lie. No, in fact, they even gave me food to eat well, so I could get strength for more slaps. Before they interrogated me. So yes, they gave me food to eat. I won't lie. I know the lady. When I went to the I saw the lady. I said, "Thank you very much for feeding me and feeding me well."
So they slapped you and they used tasers on you.
Yes.
On which part of your body?
Yeah, my arm here.
Your arm.
My both arm, left and right.
And they handcuffed you.
They handcuffed me behind.
And then they asked you to do what you describe as military style.
Yes, my head down, my legs up against the wall.
Your head down, your legs up.
Can I do the demonstration here?
Yeah, do the demonstration. We'll film it. So he's trying to do that. I just want to know what they asked him to do.
Okay.
Listeners, a really harrowing experience from a colleague journalist, Emmanuel Ajafo Abugri, who's demonstrating for us when we're filming it right now.
Okay.
So his arms are on the ground.
So
hands are on the ground. Yes. And then his legs are up against the wall.
This is how they made me do it. This way.
Wow.
This is it. Exactly.
For how long?
I did this till the point I could no more do. Then you see my back.
Yes.
They hit and I fell like this.
They hit your back and you fell.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then he told me to do press up and stand up, so I had to do press up like this.
And
so I did the press up to a point I couldn't do that. I felt like this, and I said, "Boss, I'm weak." So
wow.
He pulled. Then one guy put his hand here and pulled me up this way. When he pulled me up this way with him, then the other guy came with the elbow. Yeah. So when I was then, yeah. And I fell again.
They were just brutalizing you.
So when I fell, then they asked me to rise up. When I rise up, then I couldn't breathe. You know, your backbone controls your nervous system.
Yeah.
So your breath and all those things pass through there.
Yeah.
You see?
Wow.
Yeah. So your backbone.
All this was within
system.
that period that they took.
My brother, I won't lie. I'm a northerner. I was properly trained. I won't lie. Why should I lie? I respect people in this country. I respect the president. I respect certain people in this country. So why should I lie? I don't know why. Why should I lie? If they didn't beat me, my brother, why should I come and say
So two things. They interrogated you and beat you up on the basis of 2 articles.
Because yes, I have to confess who that Constant Kwabin is and confess
So who is this Constant Kwabin?
My brother, I don't even know him.
But is this somebody who exists?
I don't know whether he exists or not. You know, opinion piece, Bernard, you know how this game is. Sometimes even you can send an opinion piece to Graphic and Co. They publish. They don't necessarily have to know you. You can send to media houses, feature stories. They publish. They don't necessarily have to know you. Whether you are a human being, you are a ghost, you are living in Mongolia or whatever. That is up to you. But once it's past the editorial test, they'll publish.
Let me read an article, a statement I received from the information minister.
Right. So that's the story of Emmanuel Ajafo. In 2019, he and his colleague at the Modern Ghana news establishment were picked up. And they said national security people stormed their premises with guns, and they picked them up and they used polythene bags, covered their faces, pushed them into their vehicles, took them to their premises, and kept them for a number of days. And then, I'm sure you would have followed the story. I became a lawyer for the 2 of them until one of the guys was compromised to say that nothing really happened. And they went to court. We went to the court for only once, the criminal court. They said they wanted to prosecute them for cyber offenses. The case died that minute. Right. Okay, so as we speak, there is a journalist who reports from Asankregwa, and his name is Tebiri. So he's a correspondent for Accra-based TV station in the Western North. Now, he also reports that in Asankregwa, on May 7, he saw a scene of a violent security operation at a petroland fuel station in Asankregwa Township. it was a raid on a casino attached to the said fuel station involving a group of uniformed police officers and other plainclothes officers. So Tebri says when he identified himself to a police officer as a journalist and inquired about the operation, he was only told, quote, "We are from national security," and brushed aside. Then he said, "I watched as security officers ransacked the facility, breaking everything, including money boxes, and taking out the money in them. But then some of them began destroying the CCTV cameras installed at the place. And this raised my suspicion that the exercise could be unauthorized." Now, being suspicious, he called the Amenfi Divisional Police Commander, as a responsible journalist, at a discreet distance to inform him of the incident, only to be pounced upon by the security agents and brutalized. He says they smashed my phone and proceeded to slap and hit and kick me several times. Not satisfied, they pressed me to the ground and poured water on me amidst curses and insults on journalists. Then the Media Foundation for West Africa, which has gone to his aid, say they contacted the Amenfi Divisional Police Commander, Chief Superintendent Nana Kumi, who confirmed the incident and said that when he arrived at the scene upon Tebri's call, the security operatives had put the journalists in the bucket of their pickup. Ironically, the assault on the journalists came just 4 days after the Minister for Information, Kojo Nkrumah, commissioned the Office for Coordinated Mechanism on Safety of Journalists as part of activities to mark World Freedom Day. Now, Tebri, as we speak, I don't know at this moment, but he had been at the Thomas Allen Rooney Memorial Hospital at Asankregwa for ear problems as a result of the slaps. And now I can tell you that when they give you those slaps from your back, the first thing you feel very direct is in your ear. So you remember some 16 years ago, a group of soldiers asked me to get into an armored car at the Asawasi by-elections at the front of the Asawasi Collation Center. What was my crime? I had blown the whistle on 2 pickup vehicles that were carrying foreign ballot papers. I mean, there was an attempt to steal the elections, the by-election. So I blew the whistle on those 2 vehicles, and the police impounded them. Now, I got to the collation center to finish the process, and the soldiers started to manhandle me. I was actually on the phone reporting to the BBC, and I was reporting to Joy at the same time. When they asked me to get into the armored car, I asked them, for what? They won't explain, except to give me more slaps, and from my back, I could hear it. So I know what it means to feel it in your ears. So they managed to push me to the armored car, but to get me into the armored car was a problem because I refused to climb in there. So on that day, I remember City FM's OJ, we call him OJ, and we call him Commander. He's Richard Mensah. He got one of the soldiers to insist that they stop. And then one of my colleagues, Ohimin Tewia, also was shouting and calling to my editors. And then the police commander then also came. And then I was released. So I have a feeling of how it goes. Now, let's begin from here. Ken, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
So you have listened to Caleb.
Yes.
You have listened to Abu Baidu. You probably must have listened to Samens and the rest of them because they also witnessed a part of it. Yeah.
So, well, you see, Samson, if you don't want to believe anything at all, just look at the way a national security setup go to a media house, the 4th estate of the realm. Can you imagine if this had happened to the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd? That they would have gone to Jubilee House like that, that they would have gone to Parliament like that, they would have gone to any court like that. You know the thing I said to myself when I saw this? what would have happened if this was when I was general manager of Joy FM, or I was chief operating officer of Multi TV, or I was managing director of graphics? I would definitely have been shot, because there's definitely no way I was going to allow them into the premises without a warrant. And there was definitely also no way I was going to allow them to take any of my staff without a lawyer accompanying it. You know, so I think that at this particular point in time, it is very, very, very sad that as a country, we are being exposed to this light. But it is not new. I remember very well, and sometimes you don't even need to use a journalist. I remember the example of E.T. Mensah, when he had been taken, you know, to the BNI, and he was talking, and I remember him saying, it rings in my ear, very stinky, the place that they had put him. You know, so we have allowed these things to happen since we moved away from the revolution into the 1992 constitution, and it has been perpetuated and continues and continues. And this has to stop. And it's at this time that we should insist, especially, look at the way they are so unsophisticated, forgetting that what they were doing was going to be seen. Is this how? Even if it was even, you know, somebody who had murdered somebody who had taken some national, you know, is that how we treat the person? Journalism is not a crime. I still insist on that. And you see, you remember there's a case of Pius who was shot at the elections, and that case they go to court, the cases are not being heard. There are several of them. There's the case of even if you come into this house, Latif, nothing seems to happen. And I think that... Okay,
so Latif, we are in court.
Yes.
Because we sued.
Yes, but that is not what is supposed to happen.
We sued, we are in court.
That is civil.
Yeah, that's civil. The police apparently can't find their CCTV. So we are dealing with it. We'll deal with it.
I'm saying that from the point of view of the state. The fact that it is really important that as the state put these people into check, and most of the time it might not be sanctioned by the state authorities.
Right.
But what we do when these things happen is what then allows them and emboldens them to continue doing this.
Right.
If in all the cases, like the modern Ghana case, for example, if these people who perpetuated that had been punished, it would serve as an example for these people who also did this. And my heart bleeds that we allowed, there's one of the people who now sits on the Supreme Court that now would make pronouncement and becomes law. They set up a committee, a former IGP.
Okay, can you do this? We will come to all those aspects and discuss the question of whether or not the journalists broke any rules and all of that, and the recommendations of the Yawaso Wegon Commission report. But for now, I'm just picking your views on the narrations you hear and what you have to say briefly about them. I am told that Tabiri has seen a specialist at Bebiani, and the report indicates that he had a problem with the left ear. That's where, with the part that was pounded quite a bit. In Latif's situation, which you referred to, Latif, unfortunately, has gone even out of this country to the best of medical facilities. Latif will have to live for the rest of his life with a problem. Yes, Koku.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting where my brother started from. And indeed, I think you laid the basis, except that you asked him to stop going for specifics.
Right.
But we're talking here of a certain culture of impunity that has a historical antecedents, you know, over a period. And as he said, it's not new. The fact that it's not new doesn't make it right.
Right.
And the call for actually not just mitigating, but combating it is in order. But I would want to read some few paragraphs of a document, a paper released by the State of Journalist Safety in Ghana. This is by Sulemana Brahma, Executive Director of Media Foundation for West Africa.
Right.
November 2014. This research he did, which I think he presented to an international audience, spans 10 years. So from 2004 to 2014. They've subsequently done some on 2015 to today.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to find out whether there are any changes, maybe in terms of the statistics.
They are not. Anytime I've had to defend journalists in court, when they sue, I go to Media Foundation for West Africa website and I pick the list.
Yeah.
Then I show to a judge, see what is being done.
So that's the key, but if you would permit me.
Right, go ahead.
It says, it is important, however, to emphasize that freedom of the press may not be synonymous with the safety of journalists. This fact further underlines the relevance of the adoption of a resolution specifically focusing on safety of journalists and the issue of impunity. So while Ghana is recognized as having a press freedom environment, it doesn't necessarily mean journalists are safe in Ghana, especially if the country is assessed based on UNESCO's safety of journalists indicators. As shown in Table 1 below, and the table is there, the fact that Ghana is among countries with good press freedom environments does not mean there haven't been violations against the media in the 10-year period that this paper focuses on. In the last 10 years, the Media Foundation for West Africa has recorded a total of 138 incidents of violations against journalists and media workers, representing an average of nearly 14 violations a year. It must be emphasized that some violations may not have been captured by the foundation, and thus the number of violations could possibly be more than the 138 recorded by the foundation. The numbers in Table 1 below also reveal that physical attacks on journalists have been the most prevalent from the form of violation in Ghana during the last 10 years. Over 67% of all violations recorded by the foundation, 93 out of 138 in the last 10 years, have been physical attacks on journalists. The next prevalent form of violation is detention of journalists with 16 incidents. Year on year, the worst year during the decade was 2008 with 24 violations. Even though 2008 was an election year, the 2012 figure of 9 violations, also in an election year, compared with figures for other non-election years, does not suggest any relationship between elections and incidents of press freedom violations. Other bad years for journalists during the decade were 2009, 21 violations, 2006, 20 violations, 2010, 16 violations, and 2014, 14 violations so far. And this is critical. In terms of the perpetrators of violations, security agencies, police and military have been the worst culprits, accounting for over 38% of all violations against journalists. That is 53 out of the 138. Next to the security agencies are political party supporters, 30 violations, followed by individuals, 22 violations. Other abusers of press freedom, as captured in Table 2 below, have been organized pressure groups, state officials, and the courts that impose crippling damages or fines against the media. Unfortunately, perpetrators of violations go unpunished, or at best, they simply render apology to their victims. The lack of conscious and determined effort on the part of the state to punish crimes against journalists have the potential of fostering impunity and emboldening perpetrators and potential ones to commit further violations. On whether or not there have been improvements in the state of journalist safety in Ghana since the adoption of the UN resolution, the evidence suggests no improvement, at least as far as violations of media rights are concerned. And as I said,
so
I have
by May 2nd, 2019, the update from the Media Foundation for West Africa was that in 2018, the country recorded 16 assault cases against journalists. In 2018, 16 assault cases against journalists and media workers. In 2019, that's by May, the country had recorded 5 cases, including the killing of Ahmed Swale, the death threats against Manasseh Azuri-Awuni, and brutalities against 3 journalists from the New Times Corporation, and attacks on 2 media houses, Accra Base, XYZ, and Dero FM in Nkoranza.
Yes, so I agree with the point that we have not made any improvement relative to curing that impunity. In spite of the fact that 2018, we ranked number 1. But you see, that doesn't mean there were no violations of media freedoms. It's clearly incumbent, and not just on journalists or media owners, but I think the entirety of the citizenry, especially the focused civil society groups, to take up this issue, deal with them consciously. You said you referred to a court case. That's one of the options. There are bodies like Shraj and the rest who can intervene based on, of course, the provisions of their act and the Constitution. I'm sure we are going to get a chance to deal with the specifics.
That's right.
As you played to us.
That's right.
So this is just a general statement. You see, some of us, and I will end that way, some of the things happening have also experienced those things. And that is why it is very important that when such things happen, as much as you want to be fair, at once you want to be objective, it's difficult to deny that there is a culture or a subculture of impunity. Some of us have had a situation where in the years gone by, military personnel led by ministers of state have invaded our premises to effect arrest. Okay? We had 2 of our ladies who were helping the Crusading Guide and Tiger Eye in a joint venture. You remember, busted at the Tama port for secretly filming. We'll come to those specifics, because I'm sure when we come to where you are talking about the law.
When you listen to Caleb and Zoe and maybe Samalata Mensah tell their encounter, what do you have to say about that specific?
You see, well, perhaps I think you've jumped the gun yourself, but because you've asked me, let me address it. Look, the way and manner they invaded City FM premises is unacceptable. It ought not to have happened in this state of technology and media state institutions relationship. Contacting the management by telephone.
They were already speaking to the management.
Yes, so things could have been done in a very neat way, tidier way. That whole thing lacked finesse in terms of the operational conduct of the exercise.
Okay.
One cannot defend it. But you see, that is distinct for me from the subsequent disclosures relative to torture. For me, it is the high point of this unfolding drama. But there we have a certain difficulty, and I've raised it with City FM. I don't know if I have the right to mention the name of the person I spoke to, but I raised it, and he agreed that my concern was legitimate. He explained. You see, why is it that the disclosure of this reported or alleged torture did not come first? At the time it ought to have come. We are all newsmen. We know the worth of news, timing and everything. The gentleman was released, according to City FM sources, by 7:57. By 7:50 he was at the office. Then he was asked to go home. Why? No debriefing? Even though they didn't send him on the official assignment as we've been told by Bernard. It is your employee, your reporter. And if he comes, he's been released. No interview, nothing. And he goes home 24 hours later before we are told this most serious violation, if indeed it happened. You know, you say you believe it, and I know why you say so, because of the culture of impunity,
right?
Because of the experience.
But beyond that, beyond that, why I believe it, I want to make
please do.
I want to make it clear.
Please do.
It's not just about believing it. You see, this thing was not one that they did covertly. Normally, they do it covertly, capture you and go and put you in a room and beat you without anybody knowing. But this one, they did it where people saw.
No, wait.
I'm telling you why. I'm telling you where I'm coming from. They did it where people saw. In fact, there were people who saw the way Caleb was being beaten, and they confronted the officers and asked them, do you want to kill this boy?
You know what? You have the benefit of that
Right.
eyewitness. I do not have. I have to be honest with you.
All right.
That's why I'm happy with the investigation. Well, it means that we have witnesses who appear before any independent investigations to testify.
Yeah, but,
that's fantastic.
but still, with or without the witnesses, this is a story I will believe any day.
No, it doesn't matter.
Right, okay.
Why call for investigations if we just have to leave it at the point of a personal belief?
All right.
We don't have to do that.
No, my point is that
I don't think we should have a banter.
I know too many
No,
such stories that's so consistent.
but I do.
Right.
Same. I do same.
All right.
But what I do is that I move from the general to subject the specific to an interrogation.
Okay, that's fine.
In order to get all the details.
That's all right.
You being a lawyer will know better than I that if we're going to prosecute or go to court, you may need those specific details.
That's right.
Including the eyewitnesses. And that is part of what we should mobilize in order to actually cure this culture of impunity.
Right.
Not just the personal belief. But the point I am making is that, look, why some people are raising doubts, and the person I spoke to at City agreed with me that it's legitimate, even though he explained why the gentleman was not debriefed or the gentleman was not asked questions until the following day. Don't forget, Bernard had gone on air to Metro TV, Good Evening Ghana, on such an issue. At that material point in time, he had to have had the benefit of the torture. Look, it's the high point. And the overt things they did, I agreed with you. I said the invasion was so overt, they were captured on video.
Yeah.
What I didn't know is that there are others who also saw the torture, because the torture was not done publicly.
That's right.
Unlike the invasion of the City FM premises.
Now, if you listen to Caleb, part of his narration, he says there were these guys who were sitting there, and he tried to talk to them, and they warned him, don't speak to them.
That's his narration.
Right.
That was not captured on CCTV or anything. I'm not dismissing it.
No,
I try to be unfair.
we cannot say it was not captured on CCTV. We don't have a CCTV yet.
Well, CCTV we haven't seen.
That's right.
I'm ready to concede.
All right.
We have seen the, perhaps why I made that point is well, we've seen the City FM one.
That's
it's
right.
been put out there. You put
That's
some here. Those you are referring to, we don't have. And let me be honest with you. I would be so happy if indeed those evidences have been captured. Because we are asking for probe.
That's
We're
right.
asking for investigations. With those things, the investigation will be very well rooted.
Right.
Okay? But I'm saying that sometimes, you see, we should try and understand some of these things. You let the gentleman go home. He goes to the hospital the next day. I was asking for a copy of the medical report. I have not been given a copy. I was promised, but I was not given, or they were unable to deliver to him. But you see, you don't allow elements of doubt.
I agree with you, and I think those are some of the things that we as media owners and media practitioners, there are no standard SOPs that we've developed, or maybe, and so that's where people like you would, how have we handled this so that we can learn from it? Because as we speak, graphic, there is one gentleman who was beaten in whole, who has currently lost the sense of smell. So immediately, yes, and this happened earlier when there was a demonstration, had gone to cover it, and the police beat him up. And so I think that we all need to develop these things, because even in Caleb's case, and I completely agree with Kweku, but for me, it's not to believe it, but to say that some things that we should have done. Immediately he came. It is definitely debriefing and even taking him to the hospital. Because if you know that, like me, knowing how Tim, what's his name, the gentleman from Graphic had happened to him, this thing, if you don't handle it properly, in the immediate aftermath it happens, the health implications could even be there.
Right. So
and definitely I agree with the fact.
Let me get to my guest on Zoom. I think we have Professor Audrey Gadjafor with us, and we also have Professor Kwesi Enin. But what you guys are talking about, there are some who speak about double trauma, that if it happens and immediately you want to debrief, you put them in a setting double trauma.
I was giving this.
And you are aware that I have been teaching media about preserving the evidence. And so there's a way to deal with.
The gentleman you ought to have taken him home from the facility, national security facility. But he was allowed to come within the office.
Okay.
How many minutes would he take to tell you that I've been beaten?
All right.
30 seconds.
Okay, thank you.